Greetings and salutations, and welcome back, friends. We are once again presenting a UFO report, and tonight I thought we would do something a little bit differently. It was Grant Cameron actually who encouraged me to start focusing more on experiencers. Grant Cameron says it's all about the experiencers. That's where we're going to get the good stuff. And since then, I have changed my attitude greatly towards experiencers and interviewed some and continue to communicate and dialogue with others. So tonight I wanted to do something, like I said, that would be a little bit different. And that is perhaps more of a focus on experiencers. Experiencers, after all, may have direct contact with extraterrestrial biological entities. So certainly, I think that they should be the focus of some research, and tonight's guest may help us to shed more light on that. Tonight's guest is Ryan Stacey, who is a private investigator, author, citizen journalist, and an active Canadian ufologist in the Canadian Disclosure Movement. He is also a paranormal and psychogenic investigator. He's the former national chief investigator for MUFON Canada, all of Canada, and a former director of field investigator training for MUFON International. Ryan is also the host of Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. I love the name of that podcast. It's a podcast by the Experiencer Support Association. So without further ado, let's get our very special guest in here. Please welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Ryan.
Hello.
Good to have you finally here.
Yeah,
so
thanks for having me.
I don't know where to begin, but I ask everybody this because I think it's a good opening question. Okay. I've looked into your organization. I've seen videos that you're producing.
Okay.
And one question that I had, because I hadn't heard you mention it in some of your videos, and this is a good starting point, is what got you started down this rabbit hole?
You want to define rabbit hole? Because I'm in a lot of rabbit holes.
Yeah, you're in multiples. I mean, let's say the UFOs and the alien rabbit hole.
Well, I'm a paranormal guy. I started out with ghosts and spirits and apparitions and whatnot. I got the UFO bug when like a long time ago when I started with MUFON. So I guess in a nutshell, and I said this before, I've explained the MUFON story 100 times, but like I'll try to sum this one up. But I'm a licensed private investigator, so I was always interested in paranormal, but then I got a request by a client to locate someone in which her son, which she believed to be abducted by aliens. So.
Wow.
And following that, I ended up, long story short, I found out he joined Scientology. So he did disappear. He did leave home. All those things were kind of markers in something, which is not normally accepted. So weird, but not aliens. But the thing is in order to find him, I had to join all these groups that I'm now in and creating and working with in order to understand the culture and understand the language, understand, just to find this guy. And by staying in those groups, having a hobby of paranormal and investigating it myself with which was called Blacklight Uncharted, eventually somebody had reported a fraud. They purchased a manual and they didn't get their money and all this other stuff. So I piped in and said, that's illegal. How can I help? Blah, blah, blah. And then that turned out to be MUFON. And then so I went to MUFON. MUFON directed me to Canada. Didn't know there was a Canadian division. I settled that real quick. And then Stu Bundy was like, hey, so you're an investigator for real? And I was kind of like, well, yeah, like, you guys not
I'm
for real?
A real investigator.
Yeah. So, and he's like, well, what do you think about UFOs? And I was like, aren't those machines and government? And this is me not knowing, anything into it at the time. And he's like, well, there's some things we can't explain. I was like, well, okay, well, I'll join. Sure. I got nothing to do. And for me, it was just to sharpen my skills while I'm waiting for, the next, cheating husband or wife or, missing child or something like that.
I knew a PI, and that was largely.
But then the first case I got was I was instructed to close it because it was historic. It was an old case. There's no evidence, what I was told to find. And I was like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. So I end up finding the guy, locating the place, location, all that other stuff. And my first case was a cold case, reopened that, and I ended up publishing it in MUFON Journal, and then everything kind of escalated to that. So, but along the whole lines of things, paranormal there was no place for paranormal in MUFON. So I was also the paranormal guy for Canada. So every time something came up that didn't fit, the UFO nuts and bolts, at first they would delete it and get rid of it because they didn't have a spot for it. But I was like, no, I'll take it. I'll deal with it. I know how to. I know how to work with these people, and and so I built that kind of system around that. But then it got to a point where I was trying to actively get MUFON to include the paranormal spectrum. I even got to the point where I had explained to them when I was the director of training that you realize that paranormal is technically UFOs as well, because it's something that's not normal and it can't be explained. So that kind of like rattles some cages and things like that. But a long story short, I end up leaving the United States division because I had discovered money laundering, or not laundering, but money issues, and I had discovered some of the evidence that eventually led to the arrest of Jan Harzan and things like that. So there was a whole bunch of things that I had learned, and as a licensed investigator, I have obligated to make those reports. So I had done that and whatnot. So I resigned from the States, continued to go back to Canada, which is a virtual thing, never really left. And eventually, obviously, that leave was looked into, and then the investigation happened, and things like that happened. So that's kind of how I got into it. But then because of all that, I got pushed out and all these other things. But I did go public. I did push more about the experiencer phenomenon, because the experiencer research team that we have within MUFON also was a tax exchange between the two organizations. So there was double dipping. There was fraud going on with the charities and things like that. And that can be proven with their tax records. Anybody can download those tax records and
public records,
find that information yourself. I mean, this isn't new news. It's just like I tried to change it because I was like, hey guys, let's change this. And the other thing I wanted to change too was the academy part, or the MUFON University, because it was outdated. The information was wrong. It was written by I'm assuming, a researcher at some point and maybe a retired police officer, but it was completely outdated. So I had these ideas and these things to do that would better the system, and they wouldn't take it because it would cost them money. But then I said, no problem, I'll pay for it. And I'll do all the work and I'll get it, for the people. You can have it for free. I'll just do it all. Give me the okay. Now, all I want in exchange is 10% to help take care of my MUFON Canada team, because as an international team, we had to be responsible for making our own money and charge membership for the States and all this other stuff. The business model was just garbage. So even that, they wouldn't take it.
I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's the thing is I tried, but this is the thing is at this time with Jan and everybody else, these were assumptions and speculation on circumstantial evidence that I presented to them as a concern. And then the way they acted, it justified it made me think that, okay, perhaps it's true. And then all these things kind of got developed, unfolded afterwards. So by me going public, there was a concern. That was also a contingency plan on me, because I know that their face is, the media part is important. So they don't necessarily have a good enough reason to get rid of me, because I just knew a bunch of things, but I never exposed them because it was under an NDA. And it didn't matter to me because I was taking care of the people and the experiencers and doing all that other work. And then eventually they found a bylaw within the MUFON manual, which I still have, right here.
They try to boot you for finding the dirt on them.
Well, that's speculation, because nothing has been said. I've never gotten validation. I've never gotten a statement. Can't get anything from Jan because he's in jail. So did he
go to jail? Do you know what happened with the disposition of the case?
Well, he's been. I don't know if the case is cleared or not. I'm waiting. I asked for an information request, but it's still ongoing investigation. So, but so I can't interfere with a police investigation.
Oh, no,
I'm just,
sure.
I'm
Yeah.
just me curious to know, because I do care about the guy. I do like the guy, but I mean, you know, that's an illness. That's something completely different. But like, so the point of the matter is there was nothing on the media side that they could get rid of me for. And I knew that. And what I was trying to do is show them that the experiencer, the influence, this is the example in which we need to set. And at the same time, there was opportunities for me to be a national for the national director of MUFON Canada too, but those were not offered to me because of all this other stuff, because they didn't want they didn't want me to take it over or change it or convert it or do whatever I've done. So essentially, that all led to me creating the Experiencer Support Association. And essentially that was the same model that I offered to MUFON for free. And since they rejected it and forced me out, I just started doing it. And now we're going into almost year 3.
And so you formed your own organization to do the same work without
do
interference, right?
the exact same thing with the least amount of people for the least amount of money, focused entirely on the experiencers and the research to prove and to emphasize that MUFON does not need $500,000 every year to run their organization. They simply, to show that it's possible to do. Anyone could do this. And the business model, I suppose, for the Experiencer Support Association is to take people that are already doing good and help them do better. And that's that's a Masonic philosophy as well. I'm a 32nd.
Yeah, I got to ask you about that.
Yeah, no worries. I'm a 32nd.
Somebody heard that
Freemason.
Oh, really? So somebody heard that you were going to be on my show and was like, "You got to ask him about being a Mason."
Yeah, no, we can get into that too if you want. My stuff's in the back there.
Principles. Yeah, no, I'd love to hear more about it. Whatever you can tell us. But
well, I'm just saying the TESA model actually is like based on a lot of Masonic philosophies too. Like the whole, like I said, taking good things and making them better, and improving that and teaching that. So my role as the field investigator trainer, it was to teach people how to investigate all these things. But the problem is how do you teach people how to identify objects that nobody can identify? So there's a lot of speculation. A lot of people don't understand evidence. People don't understand that there's different types of evidence, layers, and that how that evidence is stacked, how that evidence goes together, how that evidence leads to a criminal case and things like that as well. So there's a process, because there's a lot of effort. This is what my observation is. There's a tremendous amount of effort trying to solve the riddle, but they don't know how. And because I possess the skills and the ability, being a private investigator for a career and having my own private investigating firm, I thought it would be a good idea to create a platform where I could teach them some things under certain circumstances, or help them do what they're already doing, and give it a little bit more credibility, that double stamp, that double standard. So TESA as an association essentially is what I'm looking for, is people who do their own investigations their own way, but they have their cases at the end of the year or whenever they have it, and they send it to review as a double check. And then we have some discord or some conversation back and forth until we get that evidence as perfect and sound as we absolutely can. And then we publish it and put it out together as a group model. But the thing is for the last almost 3 years, I went around to the circle. I went around to all the people. I went all around to the people that I think would actually be interested in that, and they're not. And why? Because my speculate that it takes away from the attention, it takes away from the viewership, it takes away from the monetization, takes away from the sales, takes away from the books, takes away from everything. From an evidence point of view, I have yet to see anything substantial enough to other than my own work, and not to toot my own horn, but like no one should be able to trust anything but their own research. But even with
I'm a big believer
myself,
of that. Trust but verify sometimes.
exactly,
Depends on the
even with
person, you know?
myself, I put it out there. So this book right here behind me, let me get,
Yeah, and just to be clear, so people understand,
yeah,
you keep saying TESA, and that means the Experiencer
Experiencer
Support
Support
Association.
Association, yes.
Yeah, and so is one of the things that you do to support people that are having these experiences and get them, you know, help them through it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, okay, I was just going to finish my thought on this. So with this
Oh,
book
sure. I'm
here,
sorry. Yeah.
yeah, no, it's okay because I want to get into that too. What I was leading to is with this book specifically is just a bunch of documents that I've gotten from the Canadian government that were that I had declassified.
Oh, I got to get this book because sometimes they let out
And
more than the
what
US.
it does, yeah, no, I appreciate that. What it does is it gives me sometimes a little bit of information. And most people reading that, and like if you get a journalist who writes a story and references a document, like that's cool. You read the story, you see the document, and you're like, oh, cool, that's that idea. And then it kind of goes on. But there's actually a lot more information that's traceable. So this entire book actually shows how I can take this little blurb and be able to identify or come very close to identifying the object, even though that the government said they don't know what it is. So I assume that they have just as much information as I have. I assume they've done this investigation as well, come to the same conclusion or something similar. They're just not releasing that to me. And by doing that, anyone who purchases that, or it's a textbook, it's a guide. You will actually learn some methods on what I use. I'm showing my work, and because I'm showing my work, I'm getting feedback from people who've seen the people that are famous today, and all they've done is written books. All they've done is read their books. They talked about these documents, but they've never seen them. And the funny thing is some of these documents in here have been around for years, but they've never been published. Why? Because
Yeah.
people are selling them. They're selling the name and all that other stuff. So as an investigator, I'm also investigating the industry. So
Somebody's asking where can we buy the book?
So this is interesting. It's on Amazon. You just type in Ryan Stacey UFO. You can buy the paperback. Proceeds go back into the Experiencer Support Association. You can get the cheaper version, the Kindle version. So I think that's $2.99 for that. But if you want it for free, it's on our website if you need it. So you don't have to buy it to get it, but it's that option is there. But I'm not going to tell you where it is on our website. So it's www.tesacan.org. So you check out the website. If you find it, you can have it.
That's awesome that you offer for free for people.
Yeah, no, it's just that's the thing. That's part of the
rough out
Experiencer
there
support
right now. Yeah.
Well, okay, so let's talk about this. So this could be, yeah, there it is right there. So somebody, oh yeah, it's cheaper because you guys are American. Lucky you.
But, I'm not a big fan of Kindle. I like paper books. I got huge bookshelves in my basement.
And that's what the other thing that we're trying to explain to everybody is how the business works. There is a business, but if you understand the business, you won't be so mad when you make the purchase. So for an example, if you want the book to be in your hands, that's what you're paying for. If you need it just to study or to look at and to browse, you get the Kindle version. If you need it for free because you can't afford it, but you want the information, you go to the website, you get it for free. It's available to everyone, but some people have, so those who can afford, accordingly. So it all kind of works out in that way.
It's a good model. I like that model.
Well, thank you. Plus Canada is based on trade. So it's kind of like the old trade system in which we have.
I thought you guys only made maple syrup. I didn't know you made UFO books too. I'm impressed.
Oh, we have UFO.
And I'm definitely, I just added this. I have a list. I have every once in a while I go to Amazon and buy 4 or 5 books. And then I hope for the time to read them all in one shot. So you're on my list now. Because I love some of the Canadian documents I've seen, and some of the research that like Grant Cameron had released some of those documents and a few others.
So Cameron's doing his own thing. He does have a lot of the documents that everybody else has. I have he's in his own world though. He's been doing this for a long time. He's been,
I interviewed him once. I like him. I disagree with him on many things, but I agree with him on others. So
Yeah, like I mean, he's not helpful to what I'm doing, but he is helpful to that particular set of experiencers in which he has a following for. So it's not really a bad thing. It's just he's no longer doing sighting reports. And he's focusing on the hard stuff that is hard to prove. But he's earned that credibility over the years, so he's entitled to do so. Um, so where are we at to? So with the support, the experiencer support.
Yeah, I wondered if you could tell us more about some of the experiencers that come to you and what some of their experiences are like and what you guys do for them, in case anybody is an
Yeah.
experiencer and is thinking maybe I should go to this group to get some help
So
or
well,
to tell my story, you know.
yeah, no, for sure. So it depends on how you find us. There's many ways we can support. TESA is a team. So I do have Chantel is on our team as well. Tim Morrison and now we have Serena. We have Kevin. We have possibly Chris if he ever answers his emails. We do have a significant team. My wife Priscilla as well. So we all have. And if I forgot someone, I'm sorry. But we all have our roles. So the support, there's pillars. So like, I mean, there's the support side for the experiencer side. There's the investigative side. There's the research and science side. So all three of those support factors, are developed in certain ways and differently, but they go together. But the problem is everybody in those three pillars don't know how it goes together. I do. We do. So our role is to help them separately and then lead them and then interconnect and then bring them all together at some point. So if you basically we ask is how do you identify? If you identify as an experiencer, or you identify as an investigator, or you identify as a researcher. So if you're an experiencer, then we would encourage you to join. Then it's like, are you in need of support? So if the answer is yes, then it's whether you want open support or you want closed support or private support. So if you want open support,
So they could stay anonymous if they want
correct.
to.
So open support, we go to a Facebook group that we have. It's called the Experiencers Anonymous is the name of the Facebook group. You can join that. It's everything that goes into that group. You can have conversations. We moderate, we regulate to make sure the information that goes inside is either TESA or our sponsors or anybody that is in our realm. We have a private Experiencers Anonymous group, which is a monthly meeting in which we encourage experiencers to just show up, listen to other people share their story or their experience, mind you. And Chantel facilitates that. And based on what they say and how they and how they're affected, she'll provide suggestions from there, either internally or externally. So we do have private resources that we can share, but we don't do that. We don't advertise it. We want to make sure that you come in, we're listening to you, we understand the situation, and then we'll make the referral based on the trauma if it's present. Now, I like that part because it deals with the immediate emotional effects of the experience. There's PTSD, there's trauma, there's sexual assault, there's a lot of criminal activity that happens. So whether these extraterrestrials or paranormal beings are real or not, that doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that these are criminal activities that are happening to my people, and my approach is trying to understand what's going on, and in some of the research as well. Using regression therapy, we sometimes learned that experiencers would hide behind the alien phenomenon as the suspect of early on sexual assault from a family member. So there's some stuff in
That's
there.
interesting. I've never heard that before.
Well, it's very common, and this comes from my background as an investigator, de-escalating as well in search situations and things like that. On the security side too, I'm also a security guard or officer, as you would call it in USA. So there's a lot of those elements going there. So we kind of triage it there. So I hope that in that model, which I'm not part of because I need to investigate objectively without the emotion. If I heard every single story and I saw the pain and the suffering
Sure.
and that
It's going to
everybody
affect you.
goes through,
Yeah.
which is I did, I would not be able to do the science side. I would not be able to do the investigative side objectively without emotionally getting involved. So that part's important, because if they get it off their chest, they feel better, they have that community, they're in a safe environment. I'm not allowed in because I'm an investigator and I want to remove myself from that equation. We don't let journalists in. We don't let researchers in. We don't let anybody in to pick and prod and pull that information out. We just let you have that environment, which is adopted from similar to the AA or NA. That
I'm
model.
familiar. Yeah, that's the way it should be. People should feel free to express themselves without worrying about who's listening.
The hope is that
people like them. Yeah.
they'll get introduced to TESA, and they'll explore in the website, and they'll find all these things that work for them and resonate. And then by the time they get to comfortable to reporting, I may not know that they've been to EA, but the hope is that trauma has been dealt with and they're now reporting undamaged or at least calmed down, so that way the information is more accurate than it could be. Now, if I get an investigation first and they don't know about EA and I see the trauma in the report, I'll refer them to EA, and then I get them to report again, and I compare their first report to their second report, and I see where that correlates, and then I go in and investigate from there. Now, I'm not only helping the experiencers, I'm also helping researchers and investigators by putting our declassified documents on the website in a database, in a virtual database, so people could find them and look for them and use them for their research. Also creating an academy where I can teach people how to investigate in general. People need to learn how to investigate anything, whether I'm chasing down like an infidelity case, or I'm trying to locate a missing child from, in the middle of a custody battle. The process is the same. You apply those tools to UFO, to ghost, to paranormal, to cryptid, to whatever you're looking for. The skills are the same. And those are missing in this. A lot of people know how to Google. A lot of people know how to read. A lot of people know how to buy books.
Oh, right. I call those right-click researchers.
But I mean, it's not their fault.
It's all going to find it.
It's all they know how. And this is what I mean. I acknowledge the intent. I acknowledge the effort, and they just need to come to us and do all these.
Sounds like you're not being critical. You're just saying like, hey, you should learn how to do X,
and
Y,
we have
Z,
and we can. All you have to do is make a report, because then the experiencer becomes the researcher or the investigator. So this is the other thing with MUFON that drove me crazy. They had the STAR team where you had to go all over the place and show up and put boots on the ground and collect the evidence and do all the other things. You will never do that. By the time you get the evidence, it'll be contaminated. By the time they mail it to you, it'll be gone. It's unusable. I mean, all those things.
And then from what I heard, MUFON just files it away and never does anything with it anyway.
So. No, that's because it goes to the CIA.
So big revelation there. Is that what you really believe?
Well, there's a lot of evidence.
I know. I mean,
I can't not believe it. Yeah. Well, the thing is we know that happened. The debate is whether it continues to happen or not. I mean, it happened once. That's more than enough for me. I mean, if anything, they just learned to cover their tracks. But I mean, there's good things about MUFON too. So the problem is, again, is a lot of people trying to get the answers, but not really knowing a damn thing about it. And my goal is to show people how to do that. And because that's been available, none of the people that are currently involved want to learn, because they believe that they can do it, or they're finding their own and all these other things, and all the power to them. Mm-hmm. But, there's, I mean, I'm pretty sure I have a clear understanding of what's going on, but I don't know enough about the subject to know for sure if I'm wrong. So like I still have to look into
open.
it. Yeah. So the thing is, when the experiencer reports, what I was going to come back to is I don't need to go to their house. I don't need to investigate their house. I don't need to do all those things. For the way my reporting system is set up, I don't even know it's your house unless you tell me that. MUFON will ask for your address, your kids, your social insurance number, like absolutely everything you don't need to do a case on top of the event data. We just want to know where it happened and how it happened, and then we speculate around that.
Well, don't you think there's sometimes there could be physical evidence that you could
there
collect?
could be. I mean, so but how do you collect the physical evidence? You know, so
yeah, there's some of these cases are weird, and I'm sure that I've heard cases of like some kind of residue on things that the experiencer claims the alien touched, and some other
so there's that fluorescent, right? and I mean, you got to capture it, you got to do it. These are these claims, but then by the time the report happens, it could be years ago, so that's no longer existent. So we kind of want to be there when it happens, and then you report instantly and things like that too. So I would tell the experiencer to go and take these daytime photos for me if I want to see what the sky looked like. When you submitted this UFO video or what you think is a UFO in the middle of the night. And I don't need to go to the location. I don't need to go there and take the photos myself if I use the experiencer. And if the experiencer does it and learns and goes through the process, and then we discover that, you know what, hey, that was the lamppost that was there. I didn't notice that when it was nighttime. Well, hey, guess what? You learned something. The next time you report, you're not going to report like that again. And then that's coming from my experience with MUFON. Most of my career was just telling people what a lens flare was, what a light refraction was, you know, and what a weather
lots of misidentifications,
yeah.
Right?
And there's still some things that are unknown, but just because I don't know what it is doesn't mean it's aliens. You know, it just means I don't know what it is. And the reason why I make these books and put them out is I'm hoping that the people that I'm hearing hate what I'm doing, hate the game that I'm playing, will look at this book, rip it apart, and say you're wrong. But nobody's even touching it. And so I give you the opportunity to say that I don't know what I'm talking about.
and
nobody and all it does is I got to do shows like this. I got to say things like this. I gotta. That's how I'm indirectly selling my book. But I mean, the point I'm trying to make is if I don't know what it is, somebody out there should know what it is. And I'm hoping that someone will find the book and be like, hey, I know what that is. And then, okay, I learned something. Would you like to be on my team? Perfect. You know, like you can turn that around if we work together. Nobody wants to work together. They all have these cliques. They all have these groups that they started a long time ago.
Ryan, I always say this. It's a big club and I ain't in it.
Yeah,
it's a big club.
I know that my name is on everybody's do not enter list.
Well, now we have something in common. You know, now I just had a very naive YouTuber last week getting some kind of disagreement, didn't like some guest I had, and said that they were going to get me blackballed from the entire UFO community. And I said, do you even know who you're talking about? I'm already the black sheep.
Yeah, but you know, that's the community. These are the people that are controlling the narrative. They don't mean
ridiculous.
They don't mean, can I swear? Can I swear here?
Yeah, you can, a little bit.
No, never mind. The moment's gone. The moment's gone. But anyway, so the messiahs or these people that are being that are in these clubs, and whoever you subscribe to, sure, they're right about some things because it's their opinion, but they're talking about something that they released 60 some odd years ago, and they're still talking about the same thing today. You know, it's nothing new. It's just people are just continuing to listen to that. No one's pushing for new answers. I'm showing documents that existed in 1952 from Canada, but guess what? They were all released in 2001. Nobody's talking about it.
And most people haven't seen them. Yeah.
Because they don't know what to do with it. They don't understand the importance or how to take the evidence and actually lead it, do a link analysis and connect the people and trace the lead and actually connect and find these people. I can find these people. When there's a report, it tells me more information, not just what happened. It tells me where it happened, when it happened, who worked. I can find all that information, locate them, get a number, call their phone and say, hey, you know, I'm so-and-so, I'm a private investigator. I'd like to talk about this UFO case. And then they hang up like, how the did you find me? Right. So even when I do that, these people don't want to talk about it. And it's like, how much of this stuff is made up? How much of this is real?
A lot. Yeah.
And so the machines and all that other stuff, that doesn't register with me anymore. With the experiencer part, the thing that I'm really passionate about and really trying to understand is why these experiencers are seeing these beings, why they're seeing these orbs, why they're doing this. Because here's the other thing too, on the skeptic side and the metaphysical or the pseudosciences, which is just simply sciences that haven't been, still science, it's just not accepted by the academics. Well, screw them. You know, Pythagoras or Pythagoras, however you want to say it, if you're Greek or English, you know, he didn't go to school. He created school, right? Like that's kind of like, you know, where'd you go from there? I might be wrong in that, but the point I'm getting at is this school system is just based on the 7 liberal arts of science. Yeah. And so we can do those fundamentals today as an investigative process and come to those conclusions. We don't need academics to do this unless we're able to provide them evidence. So when we get the evidence, then we can use the academics to weigh in on it. But if we're not collecting good evidence from the get-go, then there's no point. And therefore, there's the frustration we have today. And what frustrates me is we've been doing this for 80 years. I've been in this for 5, almost 6 years, and I've made more progress in the last 5 years than I've ever seen anyone in my area in the last 30 some odd years. And that includes Grant Cameron in terms of the sighting research. Speaking about it, going around and doing those things, all those things help. It's important. Things he's done is great, and will continue to be great, but that's only a part of it. You know, if you got someone like him going around spreading a message, well, what about the research and the new evidence that I'm releasing and he's not talking about? Why, you know, this is new information. I got a declassified document Monday. I posted that, and it still might be space debris, but it's a declassified document from the Canadian government that they sent me when I asked for it. That's something that needs to be talked about. I have in this book, I have a declassified service document from a UFO event January 19th. January 6, 2019, of a green light that chased an aircraft that had a response by military craft to find it, and they can't identify it. And they released that document to me, but yet no one is talking about it. And I give it to these people and I say, hey, look at this. Look. This is the thing that you say you always wanted, and the things that we need from an evidential point of view. They don't care. And I'm trying to understand why. It could be money. It could be a cover up. Maybe it's made up.
Maybe it's not a story they can sell.
Or maybe it's not a story they can sell. So I don't care about that club. I'm making a new club. I'm creating an environment. I am creating an environment.
I'm so sick of this club. I'm going to start my own. I'm in it with you. I'm in it with you, brother. And you know what? We had a great question. I'd always want to ask somebody.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is very important, and this is a question that I would definitely want to ask somebody like you who has all of this knowledge about experiencers. We hear a great deal about my labs. So I want to know, after all your research, what is your opinion that some of this stuff is my labs, or what is this? Stephen Greer calls it stage work, which I don't find him credible, but that's the term he used.
So give me context. What is your interpretation of what my labs is responsible for?
Well, from my understanding, a lot of UFO people seem to claim that a lot of these abductions are not aliens or interdimensional beings, but it's actually the military somehow pretending to be aliens and giving people false alien experiences.
So it's very, very, very plausible. It makes sense to me as the source. The motive, it would be debatable there. And when it was kind of leading to the experiences, it kind of got revved up there a little bit. But my study is to find out why these experiencers are experiencing not just UFO phenomena, all phenomenons, and what's connecting them through psychogenic evolution and whatnot. So the mind, study of the mind, the consciousness. So with the evidence, nuts and bolts, they need pictures, they need videos, but these people see it in their mind. And if they see it in their mind, it's not really credible because they can't prove it. But by talking to so many different experiencers and working with them and have them draw it out and mapping it and triangulate everything and doing the actual science with it, I'm able to have correlated data that shows that somebody from different areas of the world are drawing the same things or seeing the same things in their mind. So there is some connection that they're receiving the same mission, same download or transmission, or they're tapping in into the same ether or the same ultra spectrum, which we call,
Yeah, I definitely want to ask you about the ultra spectrum
yeah, no
too.
worries.
I need to pick your brain about
Yeah,
this
no,
because this
we
is a
can do that.
crazy
And
theory. Yeah.
so to tie back into that, what I'm learning is that there's just the experiencers are connected with each other. And I started to ask the question, what if like we use like poltergeist activity for an example, objects moving, sounds and things like that. You assume that it's ghosts, but like, what if it's you? What if you and your anxieties and your energy and your wants is projecting that and you move the object? There's not a lot of credibility being given to the experiencer. And when I accept that as a plausible explanation, there's more evidence to suggest that, which leads to the possible example that maybe what these people are seeing is my labs, because the technology and the consciousness, remote viewing, all these things exist. It's the motive behind it that we need to determine. Yes, it's possible, but why?
Yeah,
Why?
I've never been able to answer that. Why would the government pretend to be aliens and abduct
And try to
people?
play devil's advocate. Why scare them? Why do this? Why do that? If that's part of the game, then okay, it's weird. It's frightening. It doesn't seem productive unless they're real. And if they are real, these people can see them in this interdimension. There's multiple universes. There's lots of science to support this consciousness in this ether, this realm. It's just that human element has been removed from it. We've been, maybe part of the fear factor is to, or the control factor in a sense, is to not look at ourselves as the super being and to look at something physical or and be distracted and caused by fear. I mean,
So
I don't know.
you do believe that a lot of these people, these experiences aren't physical, and this is generated perhaps by their own mind? Because I've heard these people that claim I get abducted once a week, and my question is always like, why don't you set up some video cameras and get some
Well, you
scientists to
never know when
study
you're going to
this?
get abducted. Like it's
Mhm.
like you kind of don't wish that, do you?
No, I don't wish that on people, but if they're saying that it's happening every
Yeah.
week, I say
Well,
set up some video cameras,
this
get
is
some
how it's
evidence.
happening.
Yeah.
It's just we don't, sometimes we look at astral projection, we look at out of body experiences, we look at near death experiences, all that out of body stuff, consciousness stuff. We don't, if that experience is in their mind. So that doesn't mean it's made up. It just means that that's where the messages are being transmuted. If they're dreaming, it could be a dream state, but it also could be a reality if you're doing lucid dreaming. So there's this other side that exists, and there's many methods on how to get into it. When you meditate, when you do Reiki, when you do all these practices to tap into this source, you're pulling stuff from the same source. Now, could there be beings inside that? Possibly, and these people are seeing them, and they look a certain way. They look different. They have races. There's this data that shows them seeing it. But the problem is they can't capture it. They can't prove it. They can't take photos of it because it's in their mind. But because it's in their mind, it's considered not credible because they can't prove it. So with this philosophy,
I think it's still a mystery. Why are the same people? Why are vastly different people seeing similar things or having similar experiences?
right, and the way that we'll figure that out is through our ultra spectrum classification system. So we basically need to so for those of you who are familiar with the Hypnotic and Valet classification system, the ultra spectrum classification system is 10 times more advanced as that one, and it's meant to enhance and to include paranormal as well as consciousness and psychogenic activities, and it breaks them down into the root source. So I'll give you an example. We have paranormal orbs and we have UAPs. which is a light in the sky, orbs. So to an objective investigator, what's the difference between a paranormal orb and an alien orb? There is no difference. It's still an orb in the sky. So we would categorize that as aerial activity. So both sides can agree that this is active in the air. Now, with the other part is that we get a variance of some people taking pictures of it. We get some people, and now that's the cameras that just might be able to pick up different lights in a different spectrum because it's not seen. And then we get some people seeing it in their mind and drawing it, but it looks like the one that somebody took a picture of. So stacking the evidence works. On its own, it's really hard to prove. But if this person drew something and hasn't seen this evidence yet, right? I know that they don't know each other, and I am wondering why they look the same. But this person,
cultural influences in some cases.
Yeah,
though,
but they see it in their mind, imagining it, and all those other things. We kind of rule that out and triangulate all those other things too. But it's still categorized as aerial activity. Then we have to determine the intent. What was the motive? How did they do that? We have CE5, which is human initiated contact, where you're intentionally trying to make contact. So that matters, whether it happens intentionally or unintentionally. Some people are seeing these without wanting to see them, and some people are wanting to experience them, and they're getting a reaction to it. So there's other factors. The mind, the consciousness is the key to solving this, because if the government is doing something to that effect, the only thing that makes sense to me is that there is an existence of another dimension, another reality, another subspecies of some sort. We have the ability to tap into it. We are getting stronger. We are learning. We are seeing more. And if they don't suppress that, we're going to start to see more at a faster rate than they're ready to lose their control, which is why we have this all these things that's happening in the world right now. So it's a balance. It's whether they know, whether they need to maintain. And you got to look at the government as a business. There's like almost 8 billion people in this world. That's a big business. So you got
a lot of. Yeah, they got a lot of serfs to control.
Yeah. So, and that's a lot of people that if they were scared, that could cause a lot of damage. So there's all these things that need to take in place to maybe not scare them, maybe not hurt them, but to stunt it long enough to progress or evolve without leading to a destructive area. I'm kind of all over the place, but
no, it's okay. It's great discussion. And there's another thing that I really wanted to ask you because of your experience with experiencers.
Yeah.
One of my, it's just a theory, and I'm not as well informed as you or others that are really, really dug into these issues, but have you heard of the God helmet? And are you aware of how magnetic fields can cause hallucinations in the human brain? Because this God helmet experiment is very interesting because it's basically a helmet with magnetic field generator, and it can generate specific magnetic fields that alter the brain. And people put this helmet on and they feel like they're seeing aliens or interdimensional beings. So part of me has always wondered if maybe some of these people that are having these experiences are somewhere where there's a spike in magnetic fields that could cause this sort of experience.
Yeah, and so that's definitely plausible. It's definitely it would make sense, because if the brain, if the science of the brain is we're able to make this contact, if you're using a device that is able to enhance that, then if something because if you're in the dark and you turn on the light, you start to see things. So it becomes easier. So with those enhancements. But it's also manipulating the brain. So we don't necessarily know what sensory is being triggered, because you have your auditory, you have your eyes, so all your senses, your taste, your smell, all those senses are connected to the brain. So that device is manipulating the entire brain. So I don't know if you can narrow it down to be specific, but I mean, you would have to, again, I would take, use that as an experience and then get them to draw what they saw and compare that to my work. And then I'd be able to provide corroborating evidence around that from that part. But what I'm hearing is that there's technology that is manipulating the brain to do better. But then that same technology can be used to do bad things. right? That whole
Sure.
term,
Yeah. It's
with
a
great
tool
power
is a
comes great
tool.
response. It's still a tool. That
Tool is a
technology
tool.
exists. It
Yeah.
depends on what the hands, and that's where I'm kind of coming from. It makes sense that all these things can happen. It's the why, is the intent. We don't know, but the thing is the experiencer has trauma. And the experiencer is scared. The experiencer is not sure, and is trying to validate it. And we need answers. And that's where the disclosure part comes in. But if we disclose the UFOs, that doesn't mean aliens. I mean, that's a black,
Yeah. Could mean
like,
black projects that are
yeah, it
20
could be.
years
But
ahead of
here's the
anything
fear.
we've
The
seen.
fear is if UFOs do exist, then they link that. Therefore, this must happen. So the Experiencer Support Association isn't designed to push for disclosure. We're just writing. We're collecting information from the past, from the present, looking to the future. But the whole point of TESA is to be ready for when disclosure happens, because we want to be able to communicate to the experiencers that, hey, what your experience is not associated with what's been disclosed. It's something else, or it is, and resources and all these other things too, because there's going to be a whole bunch of people that say, you know what, I don't believe it. It's a scam. It's a hoax. And you're going to have some people be like, oh, okay, cool, right? And then, but you're going to have some people that are like, that really happened to me. Oh my God. And
Yeah.
where
You
do
got
I
a
go?
range.
And then suicide rate goes up, all these things. And it doesn't matter whether we believe them or not. They're in this panic, they're in this traumatic state, and we need to heal them. We need to help them, because there's a lot of other things that contribute to the stress, to the trauma. So in part of the whole idea is to identify the trauma, provide private resources that have the right credentials. And the reason why they're private is because they can't come forward and identify themselves as I do, at risk of losing their licenses and things like that. That doesn't mean they're not helpful. That's just the way the world works. But the hope is to get more science to prove, and then they come forward and say, I'm responsible for all that part. And then we move forward together once we remove those stigmas. And there's all that fear. But then what I'm also trying to do is encourage the experiencer not to be afraid, because here's the thing. If this experiencer is able to connect with an extraterrestrial or a paranormal being, that is my witness. I want that person to continue to do that, but I don't want them to get hurt. I don't want them to, so if you go into a room and there's a ghost and you want to do a summons, you don't yell at it. You don't say, show yourself, because unless you can determine definitively what weapons or what tools do they have on the other side that they're going to come back at you at. I would never, it's like bringing a knife to a gunfight. You don't know what the other side has, and you shouldn't tempt it. You shouldn't. And now these people are afraid, but that's how they come to me, because they don't understand. They're scared because it doesn't look normal. What's happening to me? What are these people going to say when I have no one to talk about or talk to?
Sure.
And then what we do is say, hey, it's okay. We believe you. Come to EA, come do this, talk to other people. You're not the only one who said that. We don't know what it is, but talk to other people who have experienced that and try to figure it out for yourself. Make a report, and we'll do the science side and all that other stuff. And then all of a sudden, they're not afraid anymore, because at the end of the day, we ask questions like, well, did they, what did they do to scare you, to make you think they were going to hurt you? Well, they just stood there. It's like, okay, that's scary. Yeah. But they didn't grab you. No. Okay. Well, they didn't want to hurt you. They didn't hurt you. It just scared you. That makes sense. Maybe they were scared of you. Maybe they were observing. Try to defend these aliens and these paranormal beings too, because we don't know their intent. We don't know why they're watching us. We don't know why they're abducting, or maybe you're willingly, consciously saying yes, and they're taking you, and then you forget, and then you panic, because there's so many things happening in the mind. So that's why we have to really work on these experiences case by case for long periods of time to rule all this stuff out, and then get as much information in many different ways. and which is with the Ultra Spectrum report, which is going to be my next book that's coming out. Hopefully,
Well,
it's supposed to be
that'll
this
be
October,
interesting.
but it's going to be November, which will explain the classification system. Will explain why I don't use Hynek and Valley's classification anymore, why it's obsolete to me, how the investigative process works, how this is all connected. That includes cryptids, monsters, all this stuff. These are labels. These are archetypes. You call it like a reptilian could be a cryptid. It could be like a shadow figure could be an alien. But when you draw them, this is the other thing that's interesting too, is when you go through the report, I asked them to identify what it best relates to from what they understand. But so they might say it's a ghost, but then later on in the investigations, hey, you don't have a picture? Okay, draw what you saw. That ghost looks like a gray alien to me. So I don't call it an alien because I can't label it. These are the labels that were provided by mainstream media. But why are you calling that a ghost? Because it appeared, a translucent. So they assumed it was a ghost by the way that they were raised. But if it's an alien and it's translucent or transparent, maybe that's hologram. Maybe that's technology that exists, which
Yeah.
was my lab. So there's but the experiencer needs to be believed, and we do believe them. I may not agree with what they think they had experienced is what they experienced, and they may not agree with my analysis. But we will have to agree at the end that whether or not this is causing harm intentionally or not, and we don't want them to be afraid of it. You continue, and the next time you have this experience, I want you to remember what color the clothes were. The next time you have this experience, I want you to document this stuff, and then the evidence becomes better. So that's the other part too. When I was saying how I teach the experiencers how to investigate their own sightings, and 9 times out of 10, by the time I'm done with them, they're like, you know what? It wasn't an alien at all. It wasn't a ghost at all. I just was misinformed. Well, it's okay. No worries. Thanks. Close the case. But then
Yeah.
they're okay. But even with that, there are still some that have some things that cannot be explained, and it's still
Those are the good cases,
weird.
right? Yeah,
Oh
those are the
yeah.
good cases, right?
But it can't be proven until we have more of that kind of evidence stacked up with different types of evidence. There's analogical, there's circumstantial, there's hearsay, there's testimonial, and there's the direct evidence. The direct evidence, is what everybody wants. So they can steal it, they can sell it, they can get their likes, get their reviews, right?
Get those UFO dollars.
But it doesn't help the people.
It doesn't help the cause either. I love the disclosure advocates that just put blinders on when people are running around selling 100% provably fake stories. Like that's not helping disclosure. This story's fake,
Well, in order to lie, there has to be a truth. So there is a truth to the root of it, and you got to determine the motive. So do you want to, pick a guy that you have questions about? I know you're digging into stuff. Who do you want to analyze right now?
Actually, this is topical. And you've been studying experiencers. I have a real problem with people that so-called study experiencers and then reach definite conclusions. Dr. David Jacobs, he's convinced that there is an alien hybridization takeover of Earth program going on, and that's what all abductions are about. They're abducting people, stealing genetic material. They're making alien hybrids.
What's his evidence? What's his evidence to prove that?
Hypnotic regressions and experiencer testimony.
Okay,
that's it.
And so that's circumstantial evidence based on that.
Mm-hmm.
Those particular experiencers, assuming that that they are truthful and that the person doing the regression wasn't paid to say said things. So assuming all that information is accurate, how can you definitively prove it? It's still speculation unless you get confirmation. So we still need that.
I know, but he states it like it's a fact. Like that's his conclusion.
He's not important. I'm not important.
Sure.
What's important is the experiencer. The experiencer gives me the power to be here. If these experiencers didn't report, if I didn't have this data, if I didn't have this research because of what they volunteered to me, I couldn't be sitting here for today. I wouldn't be here
Fair point,
if it
yeah.
wasn't for them. All these people that are famous today wouldn't be here if we didn't buy their books, if we didn't pay $300 to listen to them say the same shit they said on YouTube yesterday. They wouldn't be here if we didn't support them. So the Experiencer Support Association is to support the people that's responsible for what we have today. Because if some of that is true, they should be thanked, they should be taken care of, because they're directly responsible for coming forward. And what I want is more people. So I like, more people to come forward and say, I am an experiencer. I had an experience, whether it's true or not, to be more confident with it. But at the same time, talk to people like me, and don't just report to TESA, report to MUFON, report to everybody else. They all have different methods and different ideas, but you, as the experiencer, decide from who your service provider is and what's best for you, because you know what you're looking for, what answers work for you, and then you continue to study and grow. And if it encourages you to do good, I don't care if you call it angel, I don't care if it's Satan, because if it's Satan and he's telling you to do good, well, guess what? It might not be Satan, but you know what? Unless you want to go down to the Sumerian roots. But like the point is there's, we need to start believing in ourselves. So the process with teaching, that's getting the reports, that's me doing the work. I need the help. I'm going to build an academy to teach people how to do what I'm doing, so they can help me with the research, so they can understand how this works, investigate it for themselves, and help all these other people get more data, get more trends. So we have hotspots. When we have hotspots, we can actually go and we can do these experiments and try to collect other evidence that could be stacked upon it. So if I have a specific hotspot for my own data, not just a list of paranormal spots that was put on there by TV, I mean our own data hotspots, to go and do that with our own science, then we can rule some of those things out too. But the most important thing is our retreat. And I disagree.
I just want to point out, UFO Not is here. Welcome, UFO Not, and he says, I disagree with Ryan of just about everything.
Just about everything. Well, let's talk about that.
See, I just want to say that it's okay to disagree, because UFO Not, I'm vaguely familiar with some of the interviews that you've given, like with Charles Hall, who I think is a fraud, and others. But it's okay, because I think you try to do a good job interviewing them, even though I believe personally that they are not credible. So it's okay I'm talking. What I'm saying is, it's okay to disagree, as long as we do so respectfully and we both learn more about.
Well, let's talk about it. What don't you agree with? Let's break that down. I mean,
I know he said you weren't. He decided that you weren't an expert somehow.
Well, so what's an expert, right? So it's subjective. I'm with you on that. If I'm the only person you've ever heard of, I might be an expert to you, but tomorrow you might find someone better, and that's fine. I mean, like, I don't call myself an expert. You decide who an expert is. If I'm not the expert for you, that's fine. Find what you're looking for, move on, carry on. I don't care.
But then he's saying great show. So
So I mean, what the point I'm trying to make is, you as the experiencer know what you're looking for, know what you need, and when you feel it, you'll go to it. If you don't feel good about it, then you won't do it. If you stick your hand on the stove and burn your hand, that hurts. You're not going to do it again. Right. So the whole idea is for you as the experiencer, we want to encourage people when they do make reports to us. Not everybody, and I don't want a million reports. I want the best of the best. I want good quality reports. If I have to weed them out, I mean, the people that do report understand what we need. If it's not good for you, then that's fine. But the take home for that is that you, if you are an experiencer, is you're holding on to that, or not holding on to that. You're releasing that. You're going on a podcast and you're explaining your story. You're reporting it to MUFON or somebody else because that's your choice. But at least you're doing all these things to help, because that will all come together at some point in the world. What we don't want is you holding it on inside, being afraid and being scared and not understanding what's really going on. And then that causing stress and causing PTSD and that causing anxiety. And the next thing you know, you go out and you shoot your dog because you're having a bad day. We want you to feel good. And then when you start to feel good about these experiences become more real, and more better data is collected. Because a lot of these people I'll give you an example, like working in the field as in security. If we have a domestic, I got to de-escalate that situation before I can
Sure, yeah,
convince the aggressive party to leave the home. If I were just to go up and remove them from the home, I'm going to be fighting them right away. But if I'm able to de-escalate them first and then tell them, hey, it's time to go, they're going to go. So we de-escalate the experiencer, try to calm them down, and then have a conversation and be like, okay, what information is missing? What's real? What's not real? This makes sense. Let's look further into this. Okay, I don't agree with this. I don't agree with that. This doesn't make sense to me, but this is strange. So let's look a little further into that, and then we work together and we go there. I might be an expert to them in that moment, and that's hard on me because I don't know what expectation I have,
sure,
or that's waiting for them when I do that. When I have people watching me, I don't want to be that expert. I don't want to be on the top. I want, I still acknowledge that to someone viewing me, I might be the only thing they have, and then that is harder than anything, because I could say something wrong, I could make a mistake, I could lead them down a wrong path and be completely responsible for it, which is why we have this system, which is why we have this team, which is why we do it all together, and why we leave it up to choice. You don't have to report if you don't want to. And even if you do report, you can be anonymous and you can report to other people. But what do you get for in return for reporting to us? Well, you get a copy of your report. So it's a journal, an electronic journal. You unload that from your mind. You're de-stressed, or you might have solved it, and you don't need to make a report. That helps too. So you have to answer every question.
no,
If
I
you can't,
understand.
and
And
you know, and
he says that you said nobody is doing these things, and then he asks about Dr. Leo Sprinkle and Yvonne Smith. If you're familiar with them,
I'm
he
not
says
familiar
both
with them.
very good.
I mean, if they're doing it, then that's good. I mean, what I mean by nobody is in my circle or in my network, in the people that have reached out to me. I'm not finding anyone else doing the same thing. And that's kind of why I do these episodes, and I encourage
Sure.
and I talk about these things, because I'm hoping that someone will come along and be like, hey, I can help you. Hey, I know what you're talking about. And hey, I like it, because we got to work together. I don't ignore the fact that it exists out there, but this is getting it out there. I don't know how many followers you have. I don't know how many people are listening to this, and I hope that that by projecting all this other stuff, the right person will come along and join, and or help or assist or refer. There's so many ways of doing it, but for them to do that, we would have to be doing something right that fits within the parameters in which is what this person's looking for. I can tell you this model is new. There are other people that have tried it and failed. There are other people that have tried differently and have failed. Um, we may fail one day. Right now, this is new to us. We're doing quite well, but we're not trying to win. We're trying to take care of the experiencer that reports to us, one experiencer at a time. And that experiencer walks away feeling validated. And if they're private, they might refer us to their neighbor. They might show up at a show one day and shake my hand, or they might show up at a show and punch me in the face. There's all those risks. I mean, I'm not an expert.
Yeah. Okay, so
I
one of the other questions, big questions that I have
Yeah.
for you, is in regards to hypnotic regression,
Hmm.
because a lot of people have some sort of like vague impression that something happened, and then they go to get the hypnotic regression, and suddenly they've been abducted by aliens. I mean, there's what I mean to say is that there's some people that are doing hypnotic regressions that I find less than credible. Um,
Yeah.
so,
So
can you explain to us how is it used as a tool? How should it be properly used, and how is it improperly used? Because this is a very important
I love
issue to
that.
me.
So I relate regression hypnotherapy to like a polygraph test. So a lie detector test. A lie detector test simply just measures the body temperature when asked certain questions, and it gives a rating, and then you speculate that because they
Galvanic skin response.
yeah, they had a response that there is something not right there, but it doesn't tell you whether they were nervous, doesn't tell you whether they were lying. It doesn't really determine that, but it's circumstantial evidence that's used as a tool. If you started with that without building a case, it's not really a strong thing. But the thing is you've already asked these questions. You don't have any research. You have your answers. You can't research after that. You've just spoiled the investigation. So if you start with regression and they unlock the mind, you can't investigate the mind before it's unopened. It's opened.
Mhm.
And if that regressionist is leading them to a specific path or belief that's clouded, that's also a risk. So what I do is when the report comes in is I get as much information as I can back and forth, doing whatever I can through whatever programs we can put through, drawings or exercises and things like that to eliminate and validate as much evidence as possible. And then we get to a point where I don't remember, or that person doesn't remember. So then at that point, I would do some research and find some corroborating evidence, the supporting links, some other science that I have that I've done that from other cases that would reinforce that this person is similar to this. Then I would make that referral with the expectation that even if whatever comes out of that, they're gone forever, because I can't undo that. So the hope is that when I refer to a specific regression hypnotherapist, that when I give them I'll give them a task. I'll say, I want you to go back to a certain time and a date, and that's it, and ask them what they see, and go from there. Nothing direct, nothing specific. They know nothing. So I don't tell the regression hypnotherapist what it is I'm looking for. I just tell them when. And I encourage the experiencer not to tell the regression hypnotherapist anything about the event until after the session. So that, and then once it's recorded, right? So they record the audio for me. They send that back. I listen to it and I compare that to my report, my notes that are already written. And then I can pull from that things that are similar, things that match, things that add, and all those other things. And that's the only way that I can really trust to use that tool, especially if it correlates with information I already have. So that also proves credibility, because we don't know if the experiencer is lying. We don't know all these other things. We don't know if the hypnosis really works on some people, and some people it doesn't. So there's a lot of factors that weigh in on that. The most regression hypnotherapists do charge for that, as they should. It's a service, and we don't know if there's a selling point to that where they're going to want them to come back and buy another session,
more sessions,
and things like that. So there's always those risks involved. So I get as much as I can before I send them away, and then hope for the best. So I would never ever use regression hypnotherapy unless there's a blockage in the mind. And the other thing too is I have to take in consideration that that the suspect of the event might be a human being. And if it is a human being, then there would be criminal charges, and we'd have to report that to the authorities. So there's a lot. There would have to be abuse. There would have to be like a bunch of things that we would have to be prepared for, because the regression hypnotherapy isn't a therapist or a psychologist. They can't, like, they once those markers are identified, we have to contact the authorities. So that is a very, 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 very risky thing to do.
Because you could be tampering with the worry that I have is that some of these let's just call some of them less than credible hypnotic regressions, people that focus on alien abductees, are either leading them, or they could be altering their memories or implanting memories.
Yeah, it depends on how they ask the questions.
That really worries me.
It really so the investigator should be in the room if possible, to make sure that the questions aren't leading, kind of similar to an educator in a courtroom, making sure the lawyers are getting along with each other, and you have a guidance and a rule and that standard, and I'll teach you how to do all that in the academy. But I would refer, like, there's other ways to unlock.
But what you're saying is you don't use it unless there's a real reason to.
And
other people seem to do it for every single case.
No,
They do the
I would
hypnotic
never. And
regression
I
for
only
every
refer
single
to a
case.
special, a small group of people, and it is like a relationship has been built. Like it's not, and it's like I wouldn't do it. I would not go for it. Not saying it's not helpful. I mean, for the research part. Now it does. It is now. You can go to them independently and report
Or
to us
memory
later.
enhancement too,
Yeah,
right?
like I
Because
mean, it's
I read a
very useful in
story.
many ways.
Yeah, I read a story one time of a kidnapping that was solved because somebody saw the license plate of a van that grabbed the child, threw the child in a van, and left. But he only could remember 2 or so of the things. But he said, I'm sure I saw it. I can't believe I tried to find a pen. I couldn't write it down. They put this guy on hypnotic regression. They got a great hypnotic regression person, and he gave them every digit of the license plate. They tracked it down, saved the child. In that case, I say thank God for hypnotic regression.
Yeah,
you know?
it does work. That's a different game, though. There's a lot of real factors that can be traced and can be leaked and can be followed through on. Like if it's an extraterrestrial, how the hell am I going to confirm that? I can't.
Yeah, that's
So
it puts you in a difficult position.
Not yet,
because,
right?
Yeah.
So I don't really want to do that. So can we get to the comments? There's a lot of people chirping. I want to address these. I want to address.
If you have
chirpers.
comments or questions for Ryan, please do so respectfully. We're always respectful to our
they
guests.
can chirp. I want to chirp back. So let's
put any questions for Ryan in all caps, and we'll share them on the screen, and Ryan can respond to every one of you who would like to interact.
Yeah, like I mean,
active show, and
I'm good to go for a while. So I mean, we don't have to cap it.
Sure. Yeah, I forgot to even ask you about a length. We're already up to almost an hour and a half. See, this stuff.
Well, we gotta deal with the hecklers. Like I mean,
I don't think you're being heckled. I think
no. Like, I mean, I don't have a problem with it. What I want to do.
A few people early on is like, I don't know about this guy, and later they said,
I want to talk about it.
I take back what I said.
I know. I want to talk about it. I want to confront them, and I want to talk about it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so let's get the questions in all capital letters.
So
somebody did ask earlier what your favorite UFO case was and why, or what case you felt is the most credible and why.
I'm uncertain right now. The Falcon Lake incident in Canada and Shag Harbor, those two claim to have the most significant evidence. I mean, Canada's made coins for them. Like they recognize them as events. But I haven't investigated them personally myself. So I would say those. I do have a plan to put boots on the ground and go to these places and dig up new evidence. The pandemic obviously has prevented that. So those would be kind of the cases I'd like to go to. Canada does have some historic cases that they have released documents on sightings and stuff.
I like Canadian cases because I'm so unfamiliar with most of them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I've dived into most of the American stuff.
Did you know that we as Canadians have to create what's called a service document, communications?
I am aware of that. Yeah, you guys are required by law to report.
To report whatever happens. We take the report and we send it to you. And then you guys do the investigations. So my angle is if I can figure out what's going on here, then that might help you guys figure out what's going on there.
Same thing for the document releases that we see. I'm not very familiar with the Canadian ones, so I'm very interested. Actually, your book is high on my list because I've probably never seen half of those things, and I want to.
No, it's we got some on our website too.
Big Fat Creep is here and asks, what about the 94 aerial school? That one always tripped me out. Are you familiar with that case, and what do you think of that case? That's the one with the children in Africa.
I was just going to say that. Okay, yeah. They've covered that so many times too. I mean, that's multiple testimonies, multiple experiences. They were children, so they didn't know anything better, assuming they're telling the truth. They could have been manipulated. It could have been lied to. I mean, let's give them benefit of the doubt. Then they come back years later, tell the same story. I mean,
I saw that on James Fox documentary, and I was surprised at how many of them tell the exact same story 20 years later, or however many years later.
The problem is it's how we hear about these things. We have to get on podcasts. We have to get on radio. We have to get on TV. We have to do all this so people know you exist. But I mean, if every single case could get on there, then we would, it's just a matter of what sells and what's fascinating and things like that too. So like that case is significant to me as far as having multiple witnesses, but it's the same stuff. It's beings, it's UFOs, it's drawings, it's the evidence is still weak. But you have multiple testimony. So that makes it stronger. So I like that in terms of evidence. Because I'm an evidence guy. I mean, a lot of people say
there's a lot to dig into there.
Yeah.
There's a lot
So
to
there's
dig
a lot
into
of
there,
testimony.
yeah.
There's a lot of witnesses. There's a lot of experiencer stuff. There's a lot of DNA. Like you can measure, compare their DNA. You can compare their blood types. You can compare their eye color. You can do a lot of research on these experiencers themselves to see what's comparable.
Even UFO Watch, this is a revelation to me. UFO Watchdog, who's one of the most skeptical people that I know, says I think the Ariel School case is legit.
Right.
And Spooky with an excellent question, because everybody wants to know probably what you think of her and her claims. Have you heard of this Anjali person?
No, that's new to me.
Okay. She claims that she met some aliens in a base. Somebody took her to a base inside a mountain. It's a big story. We did a big interview here. Our most watched show was an interview with her about her experience.
Like, I don't disbelieve that these guys are experiencing things. What I'm trying to understand is why that person is and I'm not, or why you are and this other person isn't. So I'm trying to figure out also, if you guys share eye colors, you guys share blood type, you guys share,
it's a good point.
certain things. And once I'm able to prototype the ideal or experiencer based on this criteria, and depending on what it is, especially with the psychogenic stuff, I want to get them all in a room. And, according to the study, all you guys claim that you can levitate an object. So I want you all in the same room, and I want you to levitate this object. I want you to see it. And if they all work together, according to science, they should be able to lift that object. So I'm also building teams of groups of people that claim to be able to see these same things and measuring the methods. I don't have to believe you or not. I'm paying attention to how you are tapping in, whether it's meditation, whether it's lucid dreaming, whether it's just out of nowhere, a psychogenic download, however the message is received. And then we're going to attempt to use those methods together because that's what works for you. Some people like to have a phone call, but they can't text worth a shit. So that's a method, but it's still communication. Right? I would have everybody together and do a phone call because that works for everybody. I wouldn't have them text because it's not comfortable for them. So when I build these teams of psychogenic with these psychic abilities that are able to do these same things that don't know each other, put them all in a room and introduce them for the first time because I control the variables. I know that they don't know each other. I do. And then I'd be like, okay, guys. Right? Because one of the questions is, are you willing to test this phenomenon? Are you willing to prove once and for all that this stuff? And we put that all together and we'd be like, all right, let's do a CE5, not just a group of random people that may not be experiencers or just enthusiasts or looking for a thrill. I want a group of vetted experiencers who have made contact in some way with a specific method and then make contact. And if we get
Spooky is
contact,
here asking,
then there's validation.
The Spooky is here asking what would happen. That's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
what would happen if they all meditated together?
The best analogy or example of that is when monks meditate and they resonate with So if there's a video online, there's a couple of studies that show it, that if they're all doing that together, that vibration is magnified, it's matched, and they're able to levitate an object through sound. So the science is there. If they work together, it's there. But there has to be a team, and they all have to have the same parameters. They all have to be comfortable. They all have to be able to do that. And I have to have them in an area where they trust, where the media is not going to show up, and where, all
Yeah,
these
they might
other
put
things,
it.
because I don't want to publicize this. I'll record it, sure, and then we'll broadcast it once everybody's home and safe, and I blurt out all their faces, because I got to protect these people too. But it doesn't matter what they look like if the object in the room is levitating. So see, there's a lot of things about the evidence that people think are important that are not actually important. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, and I guess one of my other questions would be, do you get some sense of what percentage of these experiencers are seeing gray aliens versus human-looking aliens, or manted aliens, or
So
reptilian
that
aliens?
part will, I need more data. That's the plan for next year's sample, maybe the year after. The ultra spectrum right now is going to be the first report. It's going to be 2 years of study. It's only 134 cases. Of good vetted cases, but to be completely honest, only 22% of that right now, I don't know if that's my final total, is only usable. So I'm also emphasizing that a lot of people don't know how to report, and don't know how to collect evidence, or don't know what evidence is. So I got to work on teaching people how to report better, and to get better evidence. But then with the 22% that I have, there are some variants. There are some similar pictures, drawings, like cloaks, for an example. I have a variance of what look like shadow figures. I have a variant, or extraterrestrials, grays, reptilians, but they're all wearing a black cloak. So this cloak seems to be a common thing, which is weird to me. But
Yeah, I've never heard
they're
that.
all
That's weird.
seeing this cloak, but they're interpreting whatever the vision is as whatever, however they're raised, whatever they believe. Maybe they see shadow figures because they're a paranormal person and they don't believe in aliens. Maybe they see the reptilian because they believe in the aliens, and not seeing a ghost. But these cloaks make me suggest that they are seeing something, because these cloaks are common. And maybe the cloaks aren't actual cloaks, it's just a shadow, it's a human, and like it's just it's the mask. So so the plan is to do that, but I need more data, which means I need more reports. So if any of you guys are, the proof's in the pudding, make a report, and you'll be able to
Check out
see.
Ryan trying to get more data. Yeah, I'd highly encourage anybody
Well, what do you
with
get?
my
What do you
team
get out of
do
that?
it. Yeah.
As I was saying before, you get a copy of it, and you also get an agreement. You tend to tell me what you want to do with it. You tell me what kind of support you're looking for, how I can help, and then that kind of gives me a goal on how to work with you. Once the investigation's done, it gets tabled into the data, gets put in the reports at the end of the year, of course, anonymously and all that other stuff. You get assigned an experiencer number if you're in the unknowns. So that number is private to you. It'll be in the report, but you'll know when you see that number that means you, and then all those other things too. If you have evidence, then you'll get a recreation video in which we recreate the event to show other experiencers what you saw, to encourage them to report too, because what we're hoping for is them to be like, hey, I saw that too. And then we get a report, and that kind of corroborates the data. You get invited to our annual, which we're starting this year, our Experiencer Day. So I think it's December 9th is going to be our Experiencer Day, where experiencers from our 2019 and 2020 study, those who want to come forward, will be coming forward, sharing their stories and their experiences, and I'll be sharing the investigation and the research that we've done on that on December 9th. So you get to participate in that, and then also, as an experiencer, you'll get an experiencer ID card, which is private to you. And then if you ever show up to any event, you just show us that card, and you get special perks and special privileges, maybe discounts, stuff like that. Because why? You're part of the research, you're part of the study. You came forward and you gave us information that we can use. So all you have to do is show up and show us that identification that you're one of us, and you get something in return for that. So it's not just about getting the data. It's about giving me the opportunity to thank you, giving you the opportunity to learn, and to, there's so many things, and which is why less is more. I don't need to have 100,000 cases of bad data like MUFON does. I just need to have, a good 100 cases of really good information. I don't want to have 22% of usable data. I want to have like 80% usable data. I want to get that number up so it's all used in the entire sample. So this is a process. This is you know, this is going to take a couple of years to balance the line up, but you know, we're not going
Sure.
anywhere.
Here's one I definitely didn't want to miss because I've definitely heard this before.
Yeah.
M. Yeckersley asks, what does a long rod indicate that aliens are reported to be holding in abductions? I've heard several stories that involve some
Yeah,
kind of
so
a
like
rod.
again, we can only speculate on it. When the person draws it, I mean, what does it look like? You call it a long rod. Like, I mean, it could be a pole, it could be a light. It's just the experiencer is drawing what they see or what they're interpreting it as. I won't be able to identify that. They won't be able to identify that. We would need that extraterrestrial to come forward and say, "Hey, this is what it is," but we could be able to come close to that. Like I said, with the cloaks, if I can say that at least in this study, this cloak seems to be a common thing, you know, similar to like black triangles, you know, depending on what you're measuring, but this just seems to be, you know, what's popular. So if sorry, I can't identify that without,
More data.
without talking to more people, and not even with the data. I need to talk to the person. I need
Well,
to
wouldn't if
the
somebody
experience
said that
to the
they had the rod and and you know they floated things with the rod? I mean, that might indicate what the rod's
yeah,
for. It's
so
some
it's
sort of
so then we
tool
gotta
or
look at what kind of materials could cause that type of manipulation, and you know what science already exists, where that technology could come from. If we can prove that technology exists, then it's possible. But then we have to look into how the experiencer may have come to know that, whether they're in a sleep state, you know, all these other things too. But I don't really need to dive deep into that, because if you've seen something and I can compare it to other stuff, that's good enough for me. I'm not trying to debunk it. I'm trying to get enough data so I can do a study and I can do experiments and actually call these things out. So I need information that points me in the hot spot, so that way I can do environmental experimentation. You
yeah,
know,
makes sense. And
so if one of those people in that batch is wrong, but you know, but 10 of them are right, it's still going to narrow it down. You know, and then as that data increases, you know, those numbers will become smaller and smaller, and then we'll fine tune. You know, like right now, the biggest batch is in Ontario. That's probably because I'm in Ontario and I market in Ontario, and Ontario has one of the largest. Yeah, no, it is the largest population in
largest
Canada.
population in Canada
But
for a
that doesn't
city.
mean
Yeah.
it's a hotspot. It just means that's where we're marketing. So what that tells me is, well, I'll look at none of it, for example. I got one report and none of it. That tells me that someone out there heard about it, and I'm happy about that. But it also tells me that not a lot of people heard about it. So I'm going to market in none of it. I'm going to get more people in those areas. I like to go to places that don't have us, not the populated places, the people that don't have the chance, that never had the experience or the opportunity to share their experiences. That's why I'm focusing on Canada, not just because I'm a Canadian, but because the American ufology story could probably get an assist by understanding what the Canadian story is, because we give you the information. So if you get disclosure, we get disclosure too. You know, but our perspective is a little bit different. You know, it might be possible, because we have to give you the information, that we know the answers, but we can't say anything because we don't want war. So there's a lot of reasons why that our borders differ. And that can't exclude the UFO phenomenon. And we also have MK Ultra. We also have we have science experiments in that too. Penetang machine, where I'm from, has one of the old psych wars where they were doing mind manipulation, just down the road
For
from where I
sure.
am.
Yeah.
So
That's
like,
great.
like we have all those things too. We have Operation Matchbook, which is the equivalent of Operation Paperclip. We took German engineers as well. And we also have what's called not Project Blue Book. That's what you guys. We have Project Magnet. Project Magnet is
That I've
our
heard of. Yeah.
equivalent of Project Blue Book, and Project Second Story would be our equivalent of the Condon Report that shut down Project Blue Book. So we have the same story. We have the same thing that happened at the same time. We called it different things because we're working all involved in the Cold War. We're all involved in all those wars. So we all know what that technology is or what that technology isn't. But the Canadian perspective so far is German technology so far, but that's what we think,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not what you think. So who's
Yeah.
right and who's wrong?
Who's right, who's wrong? Yeah, I was
Right.
just gonna say
So
that.
that's
Yeah.
why Canada doesn't care so much about this UFO thing happening in the States. Why? Maybe because they know that the truth. And he's like, you know what? Hey, you guys been lying for so long. Good for you. Good luck. See you later. Because we want our UFO independence as well. And we're working on that disclosure here and try to separate or at least push that story forward too. And that's where people like Grant Cameron who will go to, but Grant, I love Grant, I do, but he's not pushing the Canadian narrative. He's piggybacking on the American bus.
American stuff is what
And
sells.
you know what?
Yeah.
And you know what? Maybe that's because he knows, like I said, they have the answers. We get them to say yes, we'll get answers too. But I mean, I'm trying to push the Canadian narrative so that more Canadians can understand that we have problems too, and we have the answers too. And there's a lot going on that we could share. We have 9,000 declassified documents, some of which are actually sitting behind me right there in these folders. I just have to,
your own black vault. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I just have to. What I have to do is transcribe them, put them on our website so they can become searchable in our database. There's a lot of things that I got to do. Plus I work, as a real PI. So like, I mean, I do this for a living. So as our team grows, we do have some volunteers that are helping. There's plenty of documents to go around. The best way, to get this information out, I'll give you documents, you transcribe them, we cut them up. That's a minimum, and then you guys get answers too. I mean,
I think that would be a win-win. Somebody asked what your opinion, I suppose, of the ESETI Ranch. Are you familiar with that? It's a ranch where this James Gillian claims, spaceships fly over his ranch all the time, and he charges money for people.
Skinwalker Ranch, kind of same scenario.
Yeah, I think he's trying to cheese off of their gig, but he holds these events where people see flashing lights in the sky, and many people have speculated that he's showing people satellites. And he even used the satellite, he kept looking at his watch. I had one person go to an event and said he kept looking at his watch and saying, yeah, they're going to be overhead any minute now. And then
that would make sense if they knew there was a satellite. Yeah, because
exactly.
You can measure all these things. So the thing too with Project Blue Book and all that other stuff, we didn't have the technology that we have today to measure all this stuff. So the game's a little bit different. But I mean, let's talk about the idea, I guess, of having a location and selling tickets to see an event. So I mean,
yeah, people are paying money. You're going to make sure they see something,
It's like, hey, going for a dolphin cruise and you don't see any dolphins. Are you gonna, they say, hey, well, they just weren't out there today, but you still got the boat experience, you still had the ranch, you still do all those other things. So as long as you're going in and you're paying and that to expect that, I mean, there's not really a reason for that. I mean, a problem with that. I don't think you need to go to a specific place. I think if we're able to connect through consciousness, that you can go anywhere. So those people that are, I would look further into the motive. I would look further into what they're raising the money for, what they're using the money for. It's your money. So like if you just want to go and check the place out because you heard it's cool and then you go once, and that's okay. People do ghost tours and ghost hunts in places that aren't even haunted, but it's the thrill and
it's the experience.
It's the experience, and people like that. As long as you know that going in, you shouldn't be disappointed. The problem I have is if you're like a psychic medium and you say that I can talk to your dead ones, and then you get a message, and then you're like, I'll tell, and then you tell them a little bit, and then you got to buy another session to get the full reading because we ran out of time, or people like Lou Elizondo and Richard Dolan. Okay, they did an event where Richard Dolan had interviewed Lou Elizondo, but it was a paid event. You had to pay to hear this guy interview this guy. If it was important enough for ufology, he would have done it for free because he gets monetization on his YouTube. The guy brings, easily $600 a week. PI, I can learn all. I know all these things. So he's bringing in the revenue from the attention. Why not just do it there? But there was an opportunity because of his reputation and Lou's reputation that people wanted to
make
pay
some
to
money,
see that.
yeah.
But then there's people disappointed because they paid for it and they got the same story.
The same stuff that they do on free videos.
So what is exactly? So that's where I have a problem. When we do a retreat, when we do our expo as well, we're going to run into similar problems. And what we don't want to do is have a bunch of lecturers saying the same stuff. We want to create an environment where you get to interact. So if Grant Cameron, say for an example, being Canadian, was part of this event, you're not there to hear him speak. You're there to engage the phenomenon with him. You're there to engage the phenomenon and research and make contact with me because I'm going to study it. I'm going to measure it with our tools. You're there to get Reiki. You're there to get hypnotherapy, learn about it. You're there to get a float perhaps, or go to a spa. Like we're gonna take care of the experiencers on that day. So that's the type of event that we're creating.
People have to charge reasonable amounts for things too. $300 to hear one guy interview another guy is kind of crazy,
To rent, the price is to rent stuff.
For an event, an in-person event is different than a virtual event for sure.
No, I know, but the cost isn't that very high. Especially with the tickets, with the way the tickets are, you do the math, the profit is substantial. And they're not putting that profit back into the science and the research. That's the thing. So the point that I'm trying to make is once it's marketed, once it's there, the experiencer will know, will have a choice. Would I rather pay $300 to see the same thing, or would I like to pay $100 to go towards research and science and be involved in the investigation? So it's a matter of what it is that you because it's your money. You should have a choice of how you spend your money and who you give it to. And
I always say that vote with your money.
Yeah.
Don't give money to these people that have been already caught selling fake stories.
Yeah. And if it's fake, stop giving them. That's how they get their power. Stop buying their books. Stop going to their shows. Stop liking their pages if you really don't believe them, because that's how they're getting paid and they don't care. I mean, that's how it works. Now, that doesn't mean they're not telling the truth about some things. But with everything I'm saying, I could be talking out of my ass tonight, but I trust you to go to the website. I trust you to follow me. I trust you to look at the research. I trust you to go to the website and look at the free copy of this, and only buy the book if you intend to meet me and want it signed. And if that's important to you. But if it's not important to you and you need it, get it for free. It's available for anyone who needs it, because some people can't afford it. Yeah. What about the people that can't afford it? What if somebody really needs to meet me?
I do that here. Like, I hate putting things behind a paywall. We have a Patreon. It's $1 or more a month. But I always say it's tough out there. If you're having a rough time, just email me. I'll put you on a spreadsheet and I'll send you the links every month. Yeah. This is an excellent question that I'm curious about.
Yeah, go ahead.
Lord Ludicrous Plaid. He wants me to ask you about Grant Cameron's association with that letter people. And I think he means government, 3-letter government agencies.
So everybody's on my list. I am a private investigator. I have pulled background checks on everybody in the game. I can confirm that several people are using stage names. I'm not going to divulge that, because it's part of my investigation. I mean, it's still under investigation, but I can confirm that there are associations that don't exist based on claims of the root story. And I will say that Grant is on my list, but I haven't looked into him yet because he hasn't given me reason to, because he is taking care of experiencers. He's doing work with experiencers. So he's off my radar for the time being. I'm focused more on others who have lied and are causing turmoil within the industry and causing a disruption. So So I'm not saying that Grant's the guy. I'm not saying he's credible. I'm just saying I haven't looked into him yet because there's other fish to fry, if that makes any sense. So if and by doing that, these people are linked to the letter company, and by association, if I am able to hook these people, everyone who's associated with these people will also go down. So it's in the circle. So I'm not particularly focused on that. I'm focused on the circle and the ring and the people involved. And once I'm able to prove that, everyone that touched it goes down. And then you guys can speculate around that. So
That's a nice carrot to drop, right? Like, oh, I want to know more.
Yeah.
I want to know more.
So, but he has done great work. He has done great research. He has done a whole bunch of things in the phenomenon. He has made connections. He has done all these things to make him credible. I don't see any reason to doubt him in terms of things. But
yeah, and I've talked to him. I've talked to him several times, and one thing I could say is that he is incredibly passionate about finding the truth behind the phenomenon, and I can respect that. I might disagree with his methods or how he's doing it.
With me, so he's no further accurate than I am or anyone else doing this phenomenon. He's not. He may be closer because he's been doing it for a lot longer. He may have information that I don't have. He may have experience, which is expected because of his age. You know, there's so many great things that go with it. Even if he is connected to the government, that doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. It just maybe he's chosen to funnel this information out. I have connections within the government, but that's because I own a private investigating firm and their clients, so I can talk to people and I understand how it works. But I would never make them not follow the rules and regulations. I wouldn't cause them to jeopardize their job in order to do this out. But they know that I'm the guy to call to when something needs to be out. And when I do these freedoms of information requests, I believe it's because I know these people that they're allowing the information to come out and giving it to me so I can release it. I'm okay with that, but that doesn't mean I'm working for the government. So Grant has been at this a long time. He's traveled. He's met a lot of people. It's very possible that he's made that connection. And if he's going to keep private, well, he should, because he's got to protect that source. But that doesn't mean that everything he says is accurate. That doesn't mean everything I say is accurate.
No, you don't trust but verify.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So don't believe. I'm not going to endorse anybody. I'm not gonna say bad about him either. It's he's doing a part. He's doing a service. He is helping. You as experiencer, does that help you? And if that's not what you're looking for, and then try us. And if we're not what you're looking for, try someone else. The other thing too is we have this open scenario with members. We have YouTube members. If you become a YouTube member, you get bonus scenes and all that other fun jazz. But we also we consider you guys to be shareholders in that sense, and then we also get feedback and say, hey, what is something that TESA could do with this money, and we'll implement it. So we've done things like that, stuff that's been created through the organization.
Yeah, very democratic of you.
Well, it's the Canadian,
just give us your
Canadian
money.
way,
and we're gonna spend it on whatever we want. But I want to make sure that people understand it. It's TESACAN.org.
That's correct.
The Experiencer Support Association. And also, I want to make sure that people, I want to remind people that the link to Ryan's YouTube channel is down here in the description box. I have been watching a bunch of his videos and so far agreeing with a lot or most of what he says. He and I think a lot.
If you disagree, comment. Engage.
No, I know that you can take it. So
it's how we learn. It's how we learn. Yeah. I want to learn. If you know something that I don't know, I want to know that, and I will challenge you just as much as you challenge me.
This is an excellent, maybe last question for you here.
What drives you to seek the truth?
Yeah, excellent question. Because you listen, I can tell that you put a lot of time, passion, and energy, and probably your own money and things like that into getting this thing going and getting it up and running. I know how passionate you are. So this is an excellent question. What has driven you to seek the truth about these things?
I am an experiencer. I've had
There
my
you
own
go.
experience, just like many other experiencers out there. I'm looking for people that have had the same experience as I did, and I'm learning through them what happened to me, and things like that. That's the main drive.
So it's very personal for you.
Well,
I can imagine.
but I also know people that are affected by the phenomenon that are very close to me. I know people that have almost given up on their life because they don't have answers for the phenomenon. I know
It's
people
unfortunate. Yeah.
that don't have support. I've been doing this a long time, and I care great deeply about the people. I am a philanthropist in a sense. I love the people, and I do this for the people. I do this for the experiencers, and I do believe that this model, right or wrong, in the end, will be able to help a great deal of people who are suffering from mental illness and depression and anxiety, PTSD,
PTSD
and
is a big
spin
one.
that
Yeah.
around to keep them alive just a little bit longer while we fight for the truth and push for the truth, and just put a positive spin on it, that maybe we're not being punished, maybe we're not being scared, maybe we're special, maybe we have the ability, maybe we're gifted. And if we work together and we do good things together, we will heal the world. We will be able to take care and change the world if we are able to use these abilities. But we also need to encourage people to acknowledge the ability, to train that ability, to develop that ability, and hope that they continue to do good with those abilities. So we can still use all these things that talking bad about. All these people have started for a good reason. They've just been doing it for so long that they're now dependent on the money. It becomes a career, it becomes a job, it becomes a livelihood. So there's lots of opportunity for them to, push the narrative or lie or do some things just
Hoaxes.
just
Yeah.
to make some bucks. There's lots of motive there because we all need money. But the drive, the pushing, and then the passion is to get an actual understanding, to provide an objective, unbiased reading, fair reading on what is really happening, and at the same time taking care of our own and encouraging them to be happy. And I do believe that if the extraterrestrial contact, if like you have that theory that we're not ready, maybe we're not making contact because we're not ready, and there's lots of evidence out there to support how we respond, especially with the pandemic. Whatever way you want to go with that is a very good eye-opener to explain or to show a variance of opinions, a variance of decisions, a variance of how
Yeah.
we
And look how that
respond.
argument's going.
Yeah, respond to a global problem. UFOs and extraterrestrials and paranormal activity, those are also global phenomenons. So maybe, if we can't handle then how are we going to handle that? And if the government is in control of that and they want it to come out, they need it to come out. This was a test, perhaps we failed that. So but if it's not or it doesn't exist, which is also possible because we don't know, I got to look at both sides. I got to defend it. I also have to encourage it. And in the
Yeah, fair
middle
enough.
is the truth. So while moving forward, the I guess what we'll learn is, or what I'm hoping is by gathering up these people with these abilities that I can defend with my research and say to Parliament and be like, look, these are government documents. These are credible sources. I'm a private investigator. Here's my license. Here's all this stuff. This is everything I'm going to lose, which I risk every day that I do this. Every time I say that, I mean, I could lose a client. And that's someone that pays the bills. That's someone that brings me here. But I'm taking those risks to show that example that someone's got to thread that needle. Other people are in this industry that are afraid to lose their license, and someone's got to do it. Someone's got to start that. But as I build these groups and these teams and set that example, then maybe we can go to the government together and not protest in violence, but maybe have a peace protest, some sort of love, experiencer movement where we can tell them that we know that they know. That's a thing that I have a movement, disclosure movement, is we know, that hand behind me, there on the
Oh,
the shackle.
yeah. Listen,
we know.
we're just about out of time, but I still wanted to
Yeah.
touch on, because somebody went out of their way and emailed me to ask you about the Freemasons and your association with
Yeah,
them.
let's do it.
Because they noticed that you put
Are you
a
at a
lot.
time because you have
No,
a time
no,
crunch?
I don't have
I
to
can
go.
keep going.
Well, yeah, let's keep going. But I'd like to hear. I
Yeah.
would like to wrap it up soon. But
Okay.
I'd like to hear, because somebody went out of their way to email me and say, "Hey," but they were polite, but they were like, I think he's a Freemason,
I certainly am.
as if that's a bad thing. Because I'm not a Freemason myself, for those curious. But I'm very interested in them because I love history and how many people in our governments and things.
So what's the question then?
The question really was, can you ask him about his association with the Freemasons and why he's injecting some of that into his work? They found it, I suppose, suspect because of the, that Illuminati, the Freemasons rule the world, conspiracy kind of thing.
So it is impossible or I say impossible, it's very unlikely that someone who is practicing Freemasonry would be able to do bad things. There are people who have become Masons and done well and then left Masonry and then continued and stopped practicing and then did things that are bad while associated with the organization. If you are practicing, if you are going to church, or you doing anything like that, you will continuously be told to do good and do good unto others. And you'll continuously be reminded and shown all those things. And if you think of doing bad things, it would be very, very hard for you to do that if you are, in fact, involved with Masonry. That does not mean that a human being could make a decision while being associated with that group. It is a group, it is an organization, it is a business, it's all that other stuff, but it happens to also be the most ancient and the oldest society that has ever existed.
It goes back to the Temple of Solomon and before.
It goes further back. It goes to Egypt. It goes to Sumerians. It goes to ancient Sumerian. It goes back to the beginning. Excuse me, I ran out of tea, so I started drinking my pop. So I got the
quite all right.
So the origin story, it's how it started, and the message has always been philosophical. It's about improving yourself in the first, second, and third degree, and many degrees up to 32, up to 33. 33 is the highest that you can. Well, there's 33 is the highest. So I'm a 32nd degree Freemason, Scottish Rite.
Oh, you got one to go, and you'll get all the secrets, right?
That's where the aliens are. So then I'm York Rite as well. Master Mason on that side, Royal Arch Mason, and Cryptid Rite, all the other side and left side pyramid. I am also a Rosicrucian. I'm also an Eastern Star, which is the female fraternity as well. So men can join that too, but it's part of that. But there are female Masons too. I'm also heavily involved in charity and things like that too. So the Illuminati, is a term that was used, is the Masons, and they really stopped using it because some Masons did some bad things, and they hide. Why do people hide? Because they had a difference of opinion. They got killed because they went against the church. So it was strategy to hide and have these meetings because they wanted to change the world and do all these things and have all this other stuff. Why do I incorporate it in my work? So I can have people like this ask me these questions, so I can actually defend and share and have you maybe trust that not all Masons are bad. And it's the person, it's the human element, because the philosophy behind Masonry, as I stated before, is to take good men and make them better. And of course, take good women and make them better. And so with the TESA philosophy, to take good experiencers and make them better, or take good researchers and investigators and make them better, that's that Masonic philosophy. And everything isn't progressive with pillars and things like that too. But the metaphors in the rituals, it essentially, like in the first degree, you enter, you have an understanding of what Masonry might be, and then you kind of decide from there whether you're in or out, because everyone's curious because they don't know what it is. But then if you
I almost joined just to see what it was all about.
Well, that's the best way to do it, and you can get a tour.
You know what
of your
happened?
lodge.
COVID happened. I almost I didn't
got
realize
shut
this,
down.
but I realized I was driving in my new neighborhood. I just moved not long ago, right before COVID. I was driving around and I see there's a Masonic temple like a mile from my house, and I said, "That's so close. Maybe I'll join and figure out what this is about." But I never got to because COVID hit, and they, that kind of stuff. But I will say that most of the people I have known that have been Freemasons have been both good people. I've never met an evil one that was trying to take over the world. So I don't understand that conspiracy myself.
Well, it's you got to look at the source. You got to look at who is accusing them of what, and you got to look at the experiencer, or the individual that's making the accusation. Are they opposing party in your elections? Like, there's so many factors, so much information that you're not looking at, and the thing is, like if we look at the shrine, so. Let me give you an example. So as far as charity goes, there's a blood clinic that the Masons do in this area. We have burn hospitals for children. Like, we raise a lot of money for stuff, but then people don't know that it's run by Masons, and that's not the point. The point is to take care of the world and do that. When we have our meetings, it's to talk about the world. It's a pep talk to go out and heal the world. And how do we do it? How do we solve the world's problems? How do we do that? And how do we do? And what it essentially is one of the other models is mottos is. The only time you look down at a brother is when you're helping them up. Like, there's a lot of things. But the thing is, with Masonry, the symbolism, the algorithm, all the allegory, these ancient symbols, they all have meanings in the material sense. But they also, if you break it down, is about consciousness. So a passage for the working tools in, I think, the first or second degree is the rude material receives its fine finish from repeated efforts alone, and nothing short of indefatigable exertion shall induce the habit of virtue, enlighten the mind, and render the soul pure. So that particular passage, while you're in that lecture, you're looking at a stone that is rough, and then you're referring to a chiseled stone that's smooth and all that other stuff. And in the physical sense, it's that rude material receive its fine finish from continuous repeated effort, so continually working on it, and nothing short of indefatigable exertion, so continual efforts, and I can't break it apart. Nothing short of indefatigable exertion shall induce the habit of virtue, enlighten the mind, and render the soul pure. So you'll start to feel better when you research the finished product. But so we comprehend that, we use these symbols, but what it really means is ourselves. So if we continue to work on ourselves, that finished product will induce the habit of virtue, enlighten the mind, and render the soul pure. Our shadow work, our demons, we work on ourselves. We fight these battles. We take care of ourselves. We continue to learn. We continue to grow. We continue to help those people, and we work through those degrees. And in Masonry, for the first, like the story within that they walk you through in the rituals, the first, second, and degree as a stone mason is you learn how to use the tools to build the project in King Solomon's temple. And then in the second degree, you're essentially moved to the next level where you are shown how to take that and make it a little bit better to fit and be perfect for review. And then the third degree essentially is that level within the building to determine where that stone fits. in that puzzle. So all along the way, at the second degree, if that stone isn't ready to be moved for review in the third degree, you go back to the first degree. You continue to work on it, and then you present it in the second. And then you present it in the second, and then it gets onto the third, and the third's like, no, this isn't right. It doesn't fit. We don't know where it fits yet. So go back and work on the second. And then you get to the third, then all of a sudden they know where it fits. Yeah. So what that really is an inspector looking at this piece in this great architect project to figure out, where this goes. But the point of that is consciousness. As you continue to work on yourself, you do something, you move to that next step, then you continue to go back to the first, to the second, to the third, until you figure out where you fit. And once you figure out where you fit, where you belong, where you're comfortable, you're rising, then you continue to work on that. But then if you get up to 32nd degree and you make a mistake and you fall from grace, all those kind of things, you go back to the first degree, you work to the second, you keep going till you get to the third, and you continue and you build yourself back up. And that's the philosophy with Masonry, is we're taking good people and making them better. And we're building them up. We're going back and through this progression, but they use these allegories, these metaphors, or as proverbs in the Christian Bible. These are just stories to explain consciousness, the way the mind works, and how to obtain the heavenly abode. It's all about consciousness. And that is the ancient. And the other thing too with Freemasonry is you can believe in any deity. You just have to believe in a higher power. You don't have to identify that higher power. You don't have
somebody's asking in the live chat if atheists can be a part of Freemasonry.
Atheists is specifically, I can't remember. I can always get atheist and agnostic.
Atheist believes there's no God.
No God. So no, you wouldn't be, unless you believe in a higher power, a supreme higher power. So you would not qualify for that, unfortunately. And because the point of believing in a higher power, the reason why the Jewish tradition wear a hat, a yarmulke, is to always remind them that there's someone above them, something above them, and that's a humbling experience.
I never knew that's what a yarmulke was supposed to be.
One of them. There's many other reasons, but that's kind of one that I hold on to. It's just a simple reminder that there's always something above them. And if you believe in a higher power, and you believe that higher power is responsible for what's happening and watching what you're doing, then you're going to continuously reflect on what you're doing. You're trying to, and if you want to go to heaven, if you want to go to that great lodge above, or whatever you call it, the afterlife, you're going to do good things. And this shows you how to do it. So that's why I'm saying it's impossible for a Mason to do bad things if you're practicing, because it's impossible. The way it becomes possible is if the team fails you, if the people fail you, if society fails you, there's all these other outside measures, and then you make a decision because there's no help, there's no support, there's no mental health, there's no resources. Yeah, you're a Mason, but that's not the reason why all that stuff happened in your life. That's not the reason why you murdered someone or did something bad. It's not because you're a Mason. It's because you stopped being a Mason. It's because you stopped doing all those things, but because you have that label, So here's another example. I'm a private investigator. I own and operate a firm. I work every single day. I worked all day today. I'm going to work all day tomorrow, looking for things that are real and not real. There are people in the ufology community that are retired, and they haven't done this in years. They're no longer professionals. They're no longer practicing. They're no longer doing this professionally. So yeah, they used to be esteemed at the time, but they're not anymore. They stopped. And they're retired police officers. They're not they're not police officers anymore. They're retired. Most retired police officers become PIs. I'm that guy. And
yeah, they do. My father's former best friend is a retired Philadelphia police detective, and that's exactly what he's doing now.
Yeah,
he's doing PI work.
And I mean, it's just so. So what I'm trying to say is my skills are sharpened because I do this every day. I do this for money. I do this for real. And I also do, but I do this for free. But it helps. And what I'm doing for free is by showing and highlighting my skills. But that doesn't mean I'm right. That doesn't mean I'm wrong. Wrong doesn't mean I'm better than everybody else. It just means that I have the tools and the experience to help, and no one wants to work with me. And maybe it's my attitude. Maybe
Well, I just want to tell you, you're always welcome here because we always need guests.
Maybe they think I have an ego. Maybe they think I'm the greatest thing that exists. Maybe it's I'm a Mason. Maybe it's the fact that I'm a PI. Maybe they just can't trust me, and they shouldn't because they don't know if I'm investigating.
Some of these people might be worried about what dirt you might pull
and
up
I
on them.
don't blame them. And but that you don't have to. If there's something useful, use it. You don't, if there's something bad, tell me. Let's work together in private. I can protect the people as well. I have a lot of private people that I'm helping, and I don't need the fame for that because I know it's helping the cause. Because why? It's helping them help the experiencer.
Sure.
I'm still helping MUFON, even though I'm not a part of it, but I'm not promoting them. I'm helping the investigators because the experiencer doesn't know any different. They chose MUFON for their marketing. They chose MUFON for their reputation. But the the investigator doesn't know how to help them, so they turn to me for help. Why? Because I used to do it, and we do it privately because they don't want to get in trouble. But it still happens because the experiencer does it, and the experiencer is good. And maybe they get referred to TESA, maybe they don't. It doesn't matter. It's all collective. It's all universal. Disclosure is a global issue, and we have to work together, and we don't have to be famous. The problem with not being famous is that not enough people know that TESA exists, and that's why I do this for awareness.
This is what I call the bigger bullhorn theory.
Yeah,
and that is awareness. The guy with the biggest bullhorn usually wins. So
yeah, I'm not here to make friends. I'm not here to create enemies. I'm looking for the truth, and anybody that wants to help, anyone that wants to prove me wrong, I welcome that too. Because in my world, I'm the only one doing what we're doing. And if you're somebody that's doing it and could help and wants to work with me, I want you to reach out. And if you don't, and until somebody does, I have a big responsibility. I rely on my team. I rely on the experiencers. I rely on people like yourself who give me an invitation to have the opportunity to share this.
Yeah, this is fascinating to me because you're into a lot of stuff that,
it's all connected.
I've only dived a little bit into experiencers. Honestly, I've avoided experiencers. I was a nuts and bolts guy for the longest time. But eventually I figured out that it might be all of this is connected, just like you're saying. Cryptids and ghosts and UFOs, it's all connected.
Why? Because we're all human beings. That's how we're connected. There's no race, there's no color difference, there's no blood difference. We're all experiencing a phenomenon. And what's common is this psychogenic of consciousness connection. And this trauma, this fear, this depression, all these other things. So we rule all that out so that people are believing in or doing good things with it. If you have the ability to tell the future, or you have the ability to move an object, I want to make sure that you're using that ability for good, not working for the government in my labs. So, doing remote viewing and harming people. If they're doing that, we need a team to fight back. We need a people to protect. We need, I keep writing, I don't know, like X-Men and the mutants, Charles Xavier here sitting in the chair, but we need our X-Force. We need some people, and I can help them. But you got to go through the gauntlet. You got to make a report. You gotta work through me, and give it a go. And if it doesn't work, then that's okay. You find what you're looking for. We'll make some referrals. But there are people that understand it. There are people that get it, and there are people that are. And like I said, less is more. I don't need to have a million.
I'd rather have quality cases than a million crappy ones.
I don't need to have 1,000 regression hypnotherapists. I just need one One that's good, one that can do it, one that understands it.
And is reputable and ethical,
I
sure.
just need one. And I don't need to have a million UFO cases. I don't need to have a million paranormal cases. I just need one piece of evidence that's undefiably indisputable. I can get that here. I don't need to go anywhere because consciousness and energy is everywhere. I don't need to travel. You can get that at your own house if I teach you how to collect that evidence. And if that evidence exists and you have it, and then we reinforce it and we get more of that from all these other places, there's your corroborative data. That's how we work together. TESA is an association. The experiencer support association. You want to me as an investigator doing disclosure, that's my personal prerogative, that's my fight for Canada, but the TESA side, the experiencer part, that's for everybody. That was created for them, for you, for all of you, not for me. That is my thank you for allowing me to be here and
yeah, and it's I'm sure it's a thankless job, but some of us appreciate your work, and I want to thank you for being here. You've given us a great deal of stuff to think about. I love these shows like this, so packed with things to think about.
No, I appreciate it too. And then I do notice some of our experiencers and followers are in the comments, and I appreciate your support. I'm not running the comments, but I see you're there, so thank you.
Yeah, I've seen some new people. I assume that some of them were from your channel. So thank you guys for being here. And I want to remind everybody one final time that Ryan's YouTube channel is in the About section of this website. And you can visit his website as well. So I forgot to put that in, but I'll put it in after the show. It's TESACAN.org to reach the Experiencer Support Association website. Yeah. And make sure if you're interested in these topics and Ryan's work, make sure you subscribe to his channel. He could use a bump, and I'd like to help him get.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Get a bigger bullhorn, right?
And I will say that our regular programs, so Thursday is a podcast. I am the host of that. We get random guests in there, and that's investigative style. I'm talking to people off the cuff. I don't have a guest this week if you're available. Thursday at 8 p.m.
And I gotta do a 9 p.m. show here. So
all right.
I could come and do a half hour, an hour with you.
No, it's okay. I just thought of it, but but I do a lunch special.
I can make time.
Okay,
for
all right. Well, we'll talk about that, but I do a lunch special on Mondays and Thursdays where it's a live Q&A. So if there's questions that you still have that weren't answered, or you want to, we
got to most of them. I think we got to almost every question that people had. So
yeah, so you got a left hook, or you're watching this on the replay. Subscribe to the channel, and I do it live every Monday and Thursday just to be available for anyone who needs it. If nobody's there, then I talk to myself, and then I go.
I've done shows like that, yeah.
But I'm there. I'm there. Yeah. I'd rather be there and have you not need it than for you to not need it and not have it.
Sure thing. That's a good strategy. Well, thanks so much for doing this. I'm going to do a quick wrap up and bounce on out of here myself. I hope that you will come back, and if you need me on your show, just give me a little bit more notice.
I'll come back anytime you need me.
Excellent. Maybe we'll do a whole show on the Freemasons after I join. I should go join, figure it out. Start figuring it out. Then I'll have you come back and we'll talk about it.
We'll talk about some of it. You can't talk about all.
Oh, you're right. You're right. We can talk about whatever.
We can beat around the bush.
Did I give you a guide? Like, don't say this or we'll kill you. But you can talk about this.
just join and you'll find out. It's funny because when I first joined, it was part of that Scientology research, that investigation. I joined because I was looking for this guy. I had planned on actually blowing the lid on that because I thought it was a cult too. But when I went through my first degree, I was like, I am so wrong. And then I went up to 32 degrees, like 32 rituals, like over a long period of time. Like that's a lot of stuff that I have to remember and go through. It's not just, most people do one and that's enough, but I had never been so wrong in my life. And that's what changed.
It's good that you're man enough to admit it. And so am I. I just know I have a huge interest in history and ancient knowledge and things like that, and maybe forgotten ancient knowledge. And I would join just to get access to some of their libraries and things like that.
You'll get access in a little higher degrees, but you'll get the lessons in the first, second, and third. Like you might not
All right. Well, I'm going to hold you to that. We might have you come back and talk about this. But thanks very much for your participation tonight. Much appreciated. And we'll be in touch. Thank you, Ryan. All right. Well, friends, what a data-rich, boy, there's a lot to think about. I'm going to have to be unpacking this myself. So I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. You always hear me say this, friends. I'm always happy when there's an audience. I want to thank each and every one of you for being a part of mine, and especially thank Ryan for doing this for us. I think that he is really, people ask me questions about experiencers and abductions, and he's much more qualified to talk about that specific part of the phenomenon than I am, for sure. So I want to thank him very much. So until next time, friends, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all of you.